Hello, Earth Angels. So this is part 2 of my interview with Rob Potter. Hi, Rob.
Hello again, beautiful angel of the light. We were just talking before, and everyone knows from Slovakia. People who don't know, she's an actress in Slovakia, and she has quite a following there. So hello, all you people in Slovakia. But
English.
She is very beautiful, and the camera just loves her. It's amazing. She just is a beautiful person, and her eyes are very gorgeous. And it's an honor to be here with her in her humble little abode in Venice Beach. This is where Sandra Bullock was chased in the net, and all kinds of other movies are down here. So
it's a very popular beach.
A very popular
Venice Beach in Los Angeles. So, Rob, before we spoke, talked about Dr. Fred Bell, Billy Mayer, Semyaset, Pleiadian Princess, Pleiadian spaceships. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's happening now on Earth.
Now.
Because I met you through, actually, a seminar last year, and the seminar was led by Cobra. Now, can you introduce Cobra to our audience?
Okay. Cobra started a blog, which actually started on my birthday in 2011. Was it 12? 2012, right?
12, last year.
Yeah, last year. 2012 started on my birthday. I was living in England, and I was praying every day to be of service. I said, God, if you're not going to use me, take me off this planet. I was just kind of done. I was just like... I've had some lower back health issues. I've been a healer doing massage for many, I won't tell how many years, but a lot of years, and it kind of affected my disc, and I've been in a little bit of pain here and there, and I probably could use some of my own healing devices, but I can't afford them. Some of the laser stuff is very beautiful, but
it will change. Light workers will do much better.
Yeah, in the future.
In a very short time, yes.
In a very short time, that can turn around. We know that.
Yes.
So anyway, I was there praying and asking, and I started posting on his blog. Because he was
on Cobra's blog.
On Cobra's blog, portal.blogspot, or portal...
We'll attach the link under the video.
You're going to have the link there under the video. Anyway, so I started posting there prolifically for some time. And I mentioned Fred, that I worked with Fred Bell and Semyaset. Now, Cobra also has met Semyaset physically, and he actually gets to remember his experience. His experience also for him was blocked. He had his experiences very, very, very young, around the same time I did, same time Amora did, and same time Fred did. A lot of contacts were made. And he forgot his experiences, and he told me privately in one day that how he remembered them. All of a sudden, they came to him, and he said the book that was written about, that Brad Steiger wrote about Fred and I and his first wife, Kim Bell, is called The Promise. That's why my website is called The Promise Revealed. And I had an experience where I went forward in time in the portal, and I knew that we would meet the Moody Blues. So we met the Moody Blues backstage. I got us backstage at this concert, and we hung out with them, and they invited us to go with them. And so I was like bringing crystals. They had an album that said, every good boy deserves a favor, and there's an old man holding a crystal. So I would go to the Moody Blues concerts, and I'd give him a crystal. I go, every good Moody deserves a favor, and I would give him like a crystal. So we hung out with them for a couple tours. Fred actually got a pass and kept going. I went to like 3 concerts, and I was like, kind of, okay, that's enough. But Fred like went with it to Vegas, and he went all around. He got really into it. So I had some experiences there where I kind of went into the future, and I saw Cobra reached out to me in a private email. And
last year,
and we started chatting, and then we started Skyping and having conversations. And he asked me questions, and I asked him questions, and he asked his contacts, and they confirmed my experiences with Fred. And he has very similar type of secrecy issues around what he says and doesn't say. And I don't necessarily agree or understand all that. With Fred, it was ridiculous. He wouldn't say anything. And Cobra, he keeps certain things to himself and kind of holds it out like a little candy. Here, I can't tell you that. I don't really understand it. Fred just basically didn't say anything. Fred just said, well, they tell me this, and this is and he would come forward with the technology, and Fred could never be, no one could scientifically debate Fred. They tried many times, and they'd stand up in his lectures and start talking about time-space continuum, and Fred would start talking, then he'd ask them questions. Pretty soon they'd turn red in the face and sit down and leave. The Russians came to me, and they wanted protection from their embassy in the 80s, and Fred built that. So anyway, Semyasi and Fred and Cobra and I had a relationship. I had an interesting miracle where Sai Baba, who came to me in several miracle type situations. I won't go into that, but one of these situations, one of these things he gave me was a picture of him, and it was almost, the glass was almost going to break. It was in the back of a truck, and when I got it out, there was a cobra etched on the third eye of Sai Baba. I still have that picture.
When was that?
That picture, that was in Mount Shasta circa 95, 96.
Mm-hmm. And Cobra says he's a part of resistant movement. Can you define a resistant movement for us?
So now let's go back 26,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago. Atlantis and Lemuria both existed at the same time. And the Earth was invaded by, secretly, in the underground Earth, into certain caverns, certain members of the rebellion, or what we would call the fall, or the fallen angels, basically inserted themselves within the Earth, and they began using advanced technologies, and they took over certain aspects of the Atlantean and the Lemurian priesthoods to effect a control and takeover of the planet through implantation. And they succeeded in creating a war which ended in the destruction of Lemuria. And that destruction, basically, large meteors hit the Earth, and the entire Lemurian continent went down within hours. 64 million souls were lost
during one night,
in the Pacific Ocean, and that's why all the statues in the Easter Island and all the statues around the world that are similar like that always face Lemuria, and many of them have a tear in their eye, especially in South America. They knew this was coming at the higher levels, and they started to build a city to survive the cataclysm, and that was in Mount Shasta. There's a city, Telos is actually a Lemurian city, and Telos, the city of Mount Shasta, is underneath the dome there, and there was also many other cities, and because in the Atlantean and Lemurian times there was an open adoration by the order of Melchizedek. It was a pyramid temple priest society that exists throughout the galaxy, that basically you take a vow that you seek to serve others' needs before your own. And I was actually ordained into that through Venusian Commander Valiant Thor. I was sponsored by Dr. Frank Stranges, and he told me the Valiant Thor asked that I join the Order of Melchizedek, and I did that. And I actually, in one of his meetings in Las Vegas, one of the people from Victor 1 came to the meeting and placed their hand on my head as I took my vow. And I realized who it was afterwards, because he wasn't there before the break, and he wasn't there after. As soon as he did this thing, he was gone from the room. So it was really cool. But the Order of Melchizedek basically went underground, and they had what are called Raws. And these are basically, you would go into the temple, this is many thousands of years ago, and there's a living flame. It's talked about in the halls of Amenti and esoteric literature. It's talked about, but there's different ones. And these flames, you would go into these temples and you would sit before the flame, and the flame is the essence of timelessness itself. For those who follow the Eckankar teachings of Paul Twitchell, Harold Klemp, and Darwin Gross, and Rubizar Tars, and the Varagai, Eagle Eye Ekmasters, Fubi Kwans of Agam Des, and the Tibetans, you'll recognize in the city of Venus, there's a temple in the city of Retz, which is made of crystals, and it's the essence of timelessness.
Where's that city of Venus?
The city of Retz is actually on is the one city, a physical city on the surface, but most of the life on Venus lives in the interior of the planet, in the fifth or sixth dimension. It's a higher
like in Earth.
Higher astral, yeah. So what happened is many of the civilizations after the fall and this takeover by the forces of the political situation went underground. And so there was what's known as the Agarthan Network that's existed for 26,000 years. And they took these different lights or spiritual lights, and each of these lights had a master. For instance, in Egypt, underneath the Giza complex under Luxor, the Ascended Master, Great White Brotherhood, there is a light known as the Ra. And then if you look underneath the Bermuda Triangle, there may still be a series of domed crystal temples, and that was Ra Yolo. There's another group known in the Mato Grosso called Posidid. There's one in Eastern Europe called the Order of the Star, and the Brotherhood of the Star, and the Blue Lodge. And of course, Mount Shasta, there's one called the City of Telos, and that is known as Ramu. So there's many of these different ones, and I'm sure there's many others in the Andes. There's all around the world. There's an Agarthan Network, which has basically had very little contact with the surface population for over 30,000 years now. They've not wanted to interact anyone, but at various times, many people have been taken from the surface. Entire families have been invited. There are records and histories in South America where entire villages left their food in the middle of a meal. Entire villages were left, and they were taken down and live underneath the surface of the earth. So the resistance movement is actually a combination of this Agarthan Network and a group of individuals from what is known as Planet X. There's no such thing as Nibiru, but there is actually another planet in our solar system, and it takes 850 years to go around the sun. That's a very long orbit. It's talked about on Cobra's website, the discovery of it. It's a blue ice methane gas covered planet, and they live in the interior. They had been actually taken over like we were taken over, except their entire population knew it. There's only 500 million of them on their planet, and when it came time to overthrow the Cabal and the Reptilian and the dark forces, the hostile forces of fallen extraterrestrials, they rose up as one people and overthrew them. So when our planet was invaded for the third time by another wave of these beings to completely do the end game and slave the planet in 1995, these people had just overcome them. And they came in mass in, I think it was 2001 or 2, 70 million of them, with the help of the Galactic Federation, materialized inside these different cities, because the last invasion in 95, these negative forces started taking out these ancient civilizations. There was some loss of life. There were some battles underneath the earth we knew nothing about, underneath the oceans and various places around the earth. There was battles going on for the earth itself, and they were taking down these magnificent civilizations that were very powerful. They knew they were coming. Many of them retreated and were evacuated in their spaceships. Some of them have left and gone to other worlds. Some of them are still out in the motherships preparing for first contact, which we hope is going to be very soon. But
we'll talk about that in part 3.
So anyway, so
the resistance movement and the Cobra is a part of that.
Well,
he works with them.
Y'all got that. So the resistance movement is actually these 70 million light warriors that came here. They did a lot of success, and by the year 2010, almost all of the alien bases had been cleared. So the Earth has had a great victory in
alien
of the hostile. I call them the hostile force. Let's just call them hostile force. That basically were they're another type of energy, and they feed off of your aura. Your body has electrical. It's like the Matrix. The movie Matrix was inspired by the Resistance. Actually had contacts within the Hollywood, and they've very much influenced the Matrix and Avatar, and probably some other movies. But so the Resistance movement itself is actually what we call the Resistance, are people from Planet X, but they have combined into a larger body with the Agarthan Network, who are Earth natives who have not really been on the surface that much for the last 30,000 years. Although they have elevators in various cities and various buildings where they come and go in people's homes all over the Earth, and they come out. There's lots of individuals that come from the inner Earth and onto the surface. We don't know them. The surface people going down are very few. Most people on the surface, you go down, you stay there. Very few go up and down. So what happened was, in 1975, there was a group of what we call white hats within the Earth's military who understood what was going on with the government's...
Within the Earth's military?
Within the Earth's Secret Service military, CIA types, actually had probably had some contact with some of the positive extraterrestrial races, and realized that the Greys, the guys with the little heads and the big eyes, that that's the only alien they've told you about, Roswell and that group. They realized that that group was a hostile force, and that the government's been suppressing the positive contacts with the good extraterrestrials.
So they were actually talking with the bad guys that they're called Greys, right?
The governments have been, yes. They've been actually interacting with them.
And they confirmed that? No.
Well, I have a guy, these guys actually worked in these bases and knew about the treaties and all the things that are going on. Mm-hmm. And I met a guy who was in that movement in '82. That was when I had another physical contact with Semyasi. I can share that too at some point. I've shared it many times. It's on my website. But so these guys were running. The cabal was trying to kill them. So there was probably 5 or 6 of these guys, and they were running in New York. They went into the subway system. And the people, the homeless people, the mole people, some people call them, guided them to a secret area, and they found an underground tunnel, and they ended up coming into a Pleiadian Syrian base.
Through the tunnel of inner Earth.
Which, it's not, there's links to the inner Earth there, but it's beneath the city of New York probably. They went into this tunnel, and they ended up... it was divinely orchestrated and guided. They were brought into contact, and they've remained there ever since. They've been working with the Pleiadians and the Syrians to effect the liberation of the planet. These guys have had all the evidence of the CIA and the Bush's drug dealing, of heroin in Vietnam and cocaine during the Ortega and Afghanistan heroin. All of the wars revolve around vortex control, resources and minerals, and drugs. And people are dying, and it's a horrible situation. It's actually manipulated by a satanic force, or we can call it satanic, a very evil force, and it's time for it to end. So the forces of light, which are the Galactic Federation, which is let's say the whole galaxy, not every single planet is a member of this federation. There's several different federations, one called the Federation, and there's another one called the Alliance. And they basically know about each other. They don't consult everyone and everything, but they have the same purpose, and they do have councils that interact with each other, and they serve the light. And they basically knew the situation was going on here on Earth like it was on many other planets, and it's decided that this planet was to be liberated. Many other planets have been liberated, including the one in the Planet X, where the Resistance Movement members. And according to Cobra, this is the last planet to be liberated. So I'm not exactly sure. I don't know about that. It's a big galaxy, so
you can say according to Cobra, that's fine. So Cobra and Resistance Movement, they work together.
Well, I'll tell you how it works for Cobra. Cobra had his experience when he was very young. He was teleported out of his room by a spaceship. I think it was Semyasi, and he was taken out very young age. He was taken to an underground tunnel system near his home. He physically got on the tube and went to New York and met Michael, who was a military guy. Now, Michael told him some things at that age, and he forgot it. And he came back. He didn't remember it till he said, I think he said he was in his late, in mid-30s or late 30s. He remembered it. He had read the book called The Promise. It kind of loosely fact, half fiction about Fred and I and our experiences and Semyassi's receptor, Fred Bell. And so he told me, he said, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. So he actually developed himself in his telepathic abilities with a strong desire and a spiritual discipline and a natural psychic intuitive nature and probably a past life situation. And he has a very unique telepathic communication, which is not channeling. Telepathy is different. I sat with Fred. I've had conversations with Semyassi. I asked him questions, and he asked her, and I get an answer. He did the same thing with Andromedans. Semyassi, in the later years with Fred, passed him off to a woman named Liara from Andromedan. I would ask her questions, and he would answer at certain times. So telepathy is completely different than a channeling and energetic contact. And for contactees, there's a different process that's involved there. I've never actually been trained in that, and anything I say always is just me. I don't ever say I'm channeling or doing anything else. So if there's any mistake, blame me, not the ETs. So anyway, so Cobra said from that experience he was awakened, and he has had experiences with people who work with the Galactic Federation in this inner retreat somewhere in the world. He wants to keep his location secret, but he's been down into the inner earth, and where humans interact with the people who've lived under earth for 30,000 years in the Agarthan Network, and there are also extraterrestrials who come and go to those groups. So contact's been going on. It's never been stopped. We just don't see it. It's been going on for all these years, as well as the Agarthan Network and the resistance movement. So Cobra's name actually means, Cobra is a half name for compression breakthrough. And the plan has been to increase the light on the planet from the outer space, let me come into the camera range, from outer space, pushing down onto the earth, creating more and more light on the planet. And when the light is strong enough, it will
trigger the galactic sun.
The galactic central sun will send a pulse to the planet, which will liberate the planet. And the plan has been, in effect, many people throughout the world have been physically contacted by extraterrestrials and ascended masters. Cobra's not the only one. And they have been involved in our finance, in our military, in our media, in our education, in our communication levels. On all levels of strata of society, there have been people who have been contactees. Not everyone's out there talking about it. They're not into the esoteric spiritual. They don't want the heat. They don't want the ridicule. They have families, but they are real bona fide contactees. And I know some of them. I met them through the years, and they keep it very private. They're not out there talking about it. I've always felt it's very important that people know, and that I think it's the key to the Earth's destiny. We need grounded individuals explaining the situation. And it's kind of like a Hollywood movie, really. The plot is, a lot of Hollywood movie plots actually come from this. But Cobra was contacted, and he has contact occasionally with actual physical members from this other planet, extraterrestrials from our solar system, way out there. And they give him intelligence on, because they want humanity to be aware for what they call the event. In the Bible, it comes like a thief in the night. No man knows, no ascended master knows, no Agarthan Network knows, no angel knows. When the event happens, they all know what to do. They've been planning for it. There are millions, hundreds of millions of spaceships around the Earth, motherships. For instance, Valiant Thor from Venus has a spaceship 100 miles above the Earth. It's completely cloaked. No one will ever see it unless they want it to be seen. And it acts as a way station education. He is one of the main liaisons for the Solar Council. Commander Valiant Thor heads the fleet for the Solar Council on Earth. And he interacts with Soltek and Monka and all those guys that we've known for many years in administering to the Earth's political process. They monitor all the members of the military and the secret government and the dark forces who are seeking to control the planet. They know every word they do, every thought they think, every action they take. They know every spore of anthrax. They know every nuclear bomb. They know every negative biological weapon they have. And they monitor those things. And it's reported to councils and certain things.
Well, they monitor our thoughts, right? And feelings, Cobra said, right? Those that matter. Those that...
Everyone has guardian and guiding angels, or these are beings who are basically that are connected to you in this life to see that you carry out your mission and your purpose. And certain things, if you were going to die in an accident, you may have divine intervention and your life might be saved. Mm-hmm. So if you have a specific destiny path that's important. So we have a lot. They don't sit down and watch everything like Homeland Security, but if you're having private time, they never infringe upon your thoughts, but they basically watch your soul progress, and if your energy spikes up, and for them, time is a different thing, so they know when things are coming, and before things manifest on the physical plane, we build up a thought form. There's a magnetization or a process of manifestation that takes place in our physical reality, and their technology, their awareness, we can't possibly conceive it, but they understand these things better. It's like you're driving on a road that has curves like this, go up and down, and another car is coming from the other direction going on a road like this, like on the Route 395, and you never see each other. You might have a head-on collision. The ETs basically are above the situation, and they can look down, and so they can see these two cars are coming together. So it's just like a higher understanding, and even then, no one knows in the quantum field something could happen. You could get a flat tire, and the accident couldn't take place. So they don't monitor everything exactly for everyone all the time, but for certain specific purposes, if they want to, yes, they have very high technology. They protect their contactees. Dr. Frank Strange has had several attempts on his life, and he can tell me how I can talk about how Valiant Thor intervened and saved his life on several occasions and healed him directly from some things. They actually interfered when the military government were beating him up. They materialized and they threw the guys in a heap and basically dematerialized them out of the area. So the forces of light are very powerful when they want to be, and everyone wonders why they just don't come down and rectify the situation, because it can't be a takeover. It has to be a liberation. They can arrest the criminals, but they're not here to impose any specific political structure on us. They're basically here to teach us the truth of the universal laws of love and truth, and to reestablish our cosmic heritage and spiritual destiny, to help us realize the ancient lineages of light, which we all see as separate religions, actually spring forth from the same teachings of truth, these same eternal principles of life, love, beauty, harmony, allowance, allegiance. All of these beautiful things come from the same source. God is the source of all that is good, beautiful, and true. And what is truth? Truth is that which is eternal. Because if it's material and it passes away, it's not eternal truth. So the eternal truths, or those things that you carry with you beyond the life of flesh and blood, are the spiritual principles or the spiritual virtues. And they're corresponding to astrological signs, and you and I are Aries, and that's loyalty.
We are.
So that's loyalty, Aries, and then you have patience, which I have none of, and then you have honesty, then you have perseverance, you have compassion, and then you have continence. Virgo, the Virgin, is not really usually pretty promiscuous Virgos, and then you have equanimity, which is the balancing the scales of Libra, and then you have courage for Scorpio, and then you have humility for Sagittarius, and temperance for Capricorn, and you have charity for Aquarius, and faith for Pisces. So those principles, those aspects of your life where you demonstrate those principles, you carry those through you into the next life. So those are the things that we should be developing in our spiritual life and understanding. So the return of the liberation of the planet is basically about what we call the event. And
I want to talk about the event in part 3.
Okay, we better wrap that up pretty quick.
We better,
because I have to go to Mount Shasta very soon.
So we're gonna take one more last break. Okay.
Bye.